Hi, it's Kathy Kress back again with my Geriatric Care 1 channel, and we were doing long distance care providers and talking about what you can do to help them as a geriatric care manager. What you can do is help with emergency preparedness. Now, we all know that there have been catastrophic instances of weather in the last, say, 10 years, and that it is predicted they will increase. And so, we're talking about Katrina, which was a while ago, or Hurricane Sandy. What you can do is come in and do an inventory of all of the items that you feel need to be in a house to be prepared for a hurricane or a polar vortex where all the plumbing is going to crack. And even more than that, do an inventory of, where would the client go when they need to get out. There was a geriatric care manager in New Orleans when Katrina happened, where they had to get everybody out, boats, bring them in one case to a hotel, not prepared at all. So, not because the geriatric care manager wasn't a great geriatric care manager. No one expected Katrina would do what they did. So, and you can't expect that. It's very random, bad, horrible weather. So to do an inventory of what is needed in any sort of an emergency, that's something that you can do. And, where will the older person go if they have to get out of the house? If the telephones go out, and, you don't have landlines anymore, but is there a cell phone? Is there somebody there that can use a cell phone, especially if an older person is living by themselves? What is going to happen? So develop in your practice an emergency assessment. And actually, in the last version of Handbook of Geriatric Care Management, there is a whole chapter on emergency preparedness, and use one of those assessments. And then basically you want to have a disaster plan. You can get that from the Red Cross. In California we have earthquakes all the time, so there are disaster plans available that you can just, sink into, but have a disaster plan. And then develop a safety assessment so that every time you monitor the older person, this should be done routinely, you are checking whether are the batteries still available for the flashlights? Are the flashlights still there? Is a cell phone working? Just have a checklist to go over every single time you monitor, because an emergency can happen at any time. And then have a safety committee in your geriatric care management practice. And this is really important for long distance care providers because they don't live next door. They can't get mom into a boat to get her out. They're in Atlantic City and mom's in Minnesota, or vice versa. So to do that on a regular basis and monitor for the disaster. And then let's just sum this up about long distance care providers and all the things that you can do. All of this increases the quality of the life of the care recipient. And you can even do more to do that through actual technology. Because you can bring in things like Ancestry.com. Older people love that, and so do younger people. And so that's something the long-distance care provider and the older person can do together, because Ancestry.com is online. There are other, genealogy sites, but you could introduce that if they're interested in that. You can bring in e-readers. It sounds like duh, but that's really important for any kind of older person. But for a long-distance care provider, you're going through the care recipient's needs and, figuring out, do they still like to read? The wonderful thing about e-readers, if you use them, is it enlarges the print. And you can figure out a system for, ordering from the library. You can do a million things with that. You can have Audible.com. It's a wonderful, everybody my age uses that, walking, in a car when you're bored. You can bring in something called a SIVA digital frame, which is wonderful. You can just Google that, and the long distance care provider can program the whole frame. And what it does is it shows, it's like a slideshow. It just shows different images constantly. but it rotates them, and you can, get rid of those images and bring new ones in. It's wonderful for, a long-distance care provider who isn't there. They can program it, and the care recipient gets to see the people that they love and new pictures every once in a while, and you could do that on a regular basis. So there's lots of things that you can do for a long-distance care provider, and we will see you next time. Go to my website, kathykress.com, and we will look forward to our next visit.